Bribing a cop, take one. Once upon a time, Mr. Hallease and I went to Cancun. If you would like to check out that video, I have Sauron. So yeah, once upon a time, Mr. Hallease and I went to Cancun, and it was beautiful. The beaches, the fishies, it was beautiful. And then we had to come home. I had not been feeling well that morning. I had the poops. We were running a tad late to our flight. And because of that, by the time we were into the vehicle, the rental vehicle, and I was driving us to the airport, I was going a couple of kilometers over the speed limit. We end up getting pulled over. 2 police officers are off on the side doing things. I don't know what they're doing. And they start waving at us as we're approaching. And I just think, oh. And then I realize, oh no, they want us to stop. Mr. Hallease is in the passenger side. Officer comes up to us and in Spanish proceeds to tell us that, hey guys, y'all are speeding. He asks for my license, looks at it, looks at Mr. Hallease's license too. And, he can tell we're American, blah, 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 whatever. And he says, all right, so here's how this is going to work. Since you were speeding, I have to confiscate your ID, and you have to go down to the courthouse and pay the fine for speeding. And the fine is I think it was 150 American dollars or something like that. And then he leaves, I'm assuming to start going to fill out paperwork and things like that. And so Mr. Hallease is freaking out because he's like, I don't want to go to a Mexican jail. I don't want to either. So, but I don't think that'll happen in this situation. I think we'll be fine. And I turn to Mr. Hallease and I tell him, okay, when he comes back, just tell him the situation. Tell him we're running late and that we're sorry we're speeding and that we're just trying to get to the airport on time, and ask him if there's anything we can do to expedite this. As the officer comes back, his badge isn't there anymore. And, I think he's kind of saying a few things. And then Mr. Hallease is in Spanish, Mr. Hallease says to him, explains the situation, and says, is there anything we can do to make this not take as long? And in a matter of seconds, I realized there was many things we could do to make this not take as long, just by his body language and his response to Mr. Hallease asking that. He immediately sort of leans his shoulder, his elbow onto the car, kind of looks at both of us, kind of looks off to the side, and then he proceeds to say in Spanish, well, how much money do you got on you? And we both take out our wallets and show him, we empty our wallets in front of him and show him this is what we have. I think we maybe had 30 or 40 American dollars on us, maybe a couple hundred pesos, maybe, I'm not sure. And he's still sitting there looking at it, looks at us, and then he says the following in Spanish. Here's how this is gonna go down. And he's got this cool, calm, collected kind of, I'm gonna take your money. And I'm gonna give you these IDs back. You go on your way and I go on mine. There'll be no receipt of this. There will be no recording of the exchange that has taken place now. Okay? But you'll be able to go on your way and I'll be able to get back to my work. How do you feel about that? And of course, the both of us are like, that's great. And so with a quick swipe of the wrist, he takes our money, hands us back our IDs, and Mr. Hallease rolls his window back up. As he's doing that, the officer says, have a good flight, and walks away. One thing I will mention about that whole experience that I remember having a conversation with Mr. Hallease about after the fact, and kind of while we were there too, is that, while we were in Cancun, we did drive around a little bit, and there were times when we would see the Mexican police around for whatever reason. At least when we were there, which was just last September, I want to say. They were pretty militarized. When we were driving around, there were police on motorcycles and police in cars, and they had semi-automatic weapons on them. I remember Mr. Hallease saying to me, well, don't these police make you nervous? And I think, he was referring to the sort of climate that we have here in the States right now with police brutality and things like that, I kind of went through a little bit of a breakdown last year and the year before. Almost, not even almost, an anxiety-driven fear a little bit of the police here in the States. You know, after our encounter with that officer, Mr. Hallease asked me, he was like, you know, were you scared? And I realized that I wasn't. What's worth mentioning and the reasons why I wasn't is because with these police, I knew where I stood, no matter what the situation, you know? I knew going into any encounter with any Mexican officer is that they will not hesitate to kill me. and I knew that going in. And so because of just knowing what I would be getting into if I did have to face them for whatever reason, that is calming. It's easier to know what your threat is and know how best to react to it than to not know at all. And I think that's the main source of my anxiety here in the States with our police, is that I get pulled over and I don't know who I'm going to get. Would I like to assume that any cop that pulls me over is going to see me as an American first and treat me fairly on paper? Yeah, that's what it's supposed to be. But the reality is that it's not. At least there, I'm not saying that in Mexico it's better, because it's obviously not. I know what to expect. In the comments below, let me know about an experience that you have had that has, or let me know about an emotional response you have had to a situation that surprised you after the fact. Whether it be an encounter with police in another country, whether it be deciding to, you know, I don't know, bungee jump for the first time and realizing that you have zero fear in doing that. Whatever it may be, let me know in the comments below. And I'll see you tomorrow.